Hi guys, welcome back to K.CherieTV. This is K.Cherie, and in today's video, I'll be doing a voiceover review of the show Ready to Love Season 3, which is the Houston edition. And as I've already told you guys, I actually live in the Houston area, so this would be the perfect show for me to review. I waited a little bit to review the show because it had 20 contestants starting out, and I wanted to wait till everything kind of got more in the groove and more clicked up before I started reviewing this show. So let's get started. Okay, the first couple I want to talk about is Adriana and Rasheed. Adriana's friend came and Adriana had her friend ask Rasheed questions. Adriana's friend loved Rasheed and he gave all the right answers. So that went over very well. Adriana also talked to her friend about Kelfunny. Now, when she was describing Kelfunny to her friend, everything was about his physical. So her friend did not believe that Adriana really liked Kelfunny. Seriously, she just liked the way Kelfunny looked. So Adriana didn't even waste her time having her friend interview Kelfunny at all. To be honest with you, I really don't feel like Adriana likes Kelfunny like that. I believe that Adriana is basically just trying to get under Denise's skin because she knows that Denise is all about Kelfunny. So I think that's mainly what it is about. I don't think Adriana likes Kelfunny at all. I think she just doesn't like Denise and she wants to piss Denise off, basically. Now, the meeting that Joy and Winter had with their friends and the guys, I wasn't too interested in the conversation, to be honest with you. I was actually pretty bored. The only thing that stood out for me in that scene was when the friend asked, well, who do you like better and who's your number one over the other? If I was the guys, I would not have answered that. And as you see at the end of that little meeting, Winter felt a certain type of way because she was not the number one pick. And I just thought that was an inappropriate question for her friend to ask to begin with. And if I was the guys, I would not have answered that at all. When the guys answered that, I was like, oh no, don't do that. Flag on the play. That's what I was saying to myself or saying to the TV. I'm like, oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. It's a setup. It's a setup. And they didn't even recognize that it was a setup. Okay. They got played on that scene. Who I really want to talk about and what was the focus of the episode to me really was Chris and Naya. So Naya has Chris meet with her cousin and her cousin asked Chris a question about finances and basically would he take care of the household as the man, basically. And Chris gives an answer and he's like, oh, well, we can split the mortgage and I can take this bill and that bill and she can take this bill and that bill. Well, baby, that ain't what they was trying to hear, okay? That completely turned Naya and her cousin off. Now, granted, I can see where Chris is coming from because it's not the 1940s or the 1950s. Women are more progressed. We have degrees. We have careers. We own businesses. We take care of ourselves. So I can understand where he's coming from. And he even said in his confessional that he's dated women who did not want a man to take care of them. My thing with Naya is she owns a business. She's a business owner. So I would think that she's not the only stylist in her salon. So I would think that she would have enough stylists in her salon to cover her overhead. I would also think as a business owner that she would have savings so that she wouldn't be so stressed if she was pregnant. He didn't say he wouldn't take care of the household at all. He just said that they would go 50-50. I think the question that should have been asked was if you and Naya were to date and then eventually get married and to have a child, while pregnant, would you take care of the household in full? That should have been the question. I think the question was too general that they asked him, and it really wasn't what they were trying to ask. Naya has said that she's had 4 miscarriages, and I guess she's had those miscarriages due to stress. I'm not sure. But I feel like even if Chris was taking care of the household like she would want him to, everything, I feel like she was still stressed. I feel like she was stressed herself, and I feel like she was stressed the hell out of him just based off of her behavior in this episode. But once he said that, it was basically over for Naya and Chris at that point. So the next thing that Naya does is Naya goes to Edwin, and remember she had a breakfast with Edwin in last week's episode. So she goes to Edwin and she sits down with Edwin and she asks Edwin basically the same question that she asked Chris. To me, it's still a general question. It's not really exactly what you're trying to ask. Edwin gave Naya the answer that she wanted to hear. Now, I think that we also have to look at age difference. I believe that Edwin is older than Chris, so Edwin may come from was raised in a different time than Chris. Chris may be a little more, have dealt with women that are a little more progressed than Edwin has, just based on age. So as soon as Edwin gave Naya the answer that she wanted to hear, then it was all about Edwin at that point. She was ready to get married and ready for him to be the father of her child. I think that Naya comes off as very desperate. I think that she comes off as very self-centered. I think she comes off kind of a bitch at this point. She really came off as a bitch in this episode to me. She was nasty. She was disgusting. She was a bitch. Her behavior was uncalled for and it was nasty. And I think that all of the other guys are going to look at the way that she treated Chris just based off of one answer that she did not want to hear. And they're not going to be interested in her. No one wants to date a woman like that. Okay, nobody wants to date a woman like that. You're going to stress the hell out of them, and they're going to see that if you can't get what you want, then you just going to be ready to drop them like a hot potato and hop on to the next thing. Okay. So the way that Naya acted, it made me wonder at that point, did she actually even like Chris to begin with? Or was she just entertaining Chris because Chris was the only one that was showing any interest in her? Yeah, I started to question her motives at that point. Unfortunately for her, it doesn't seem like anybody else is really that interested in her on the show. I think she'll probably be gone next week, just based off of the way she behaved towards Chris. And the fact that nobody seems to be really interested in her. Her and Edwin have had 2 conversations at this point. Edwin doesn't really seem to be that interested in her as well. I mean, to be honest, he doesn't seem that interested in her either. He actually seemed kind of taken aback by her behavior once Chris didn't give her the answer that she wanted. You know, even he noticed that, wait, she's kind of all on me now. And I think he was kind of taken aback by that. And you could tell because he said something about it. So, most men don't like flip-floppers, just like women don't like flip-floppers either. And when all the women sat down and with Tommy and he was like, oh, you were all about Chris. And then she said, I wasn't all about nobody. Even the women, I feel like, kind of looked at her like, what? Yes, you were all about him. You know what I'm saying? So I think that she is coming off. She's not giving the greatest impression at this point in this show. And I think that ultimately she's going to end up leaving, and I don't think that she's going to find love at all. I think that Naya also has to remember that this is Ready to Love. This is not Married at First Sight. I think Naya has come on the wrong show. If she's ready to get married immediately and have a child immediately, then maybe she should have tried Married at First Sight. But even on Married at First Sight, yeah, they get married immediately, but they don't start trying to have kids immediately because, one, they don't know each other. So, you're still trying to get to know these men. They're still trying to get to know you. And you're talking about marriage and babies already. And you guys haven't even been in the real world outside of what this show has put you guys in. So you really don't know each other that well, but a couple of weeks. And you're already talking about marriage and babies. She just comes off as very desperate. I mean, I understand that maybe she feel like her clock is ticking and it's running out. But, I mean, maybe she should just go to a sperm bank or something. I feel like Naya really just wants a baby daddy, and she would prefer that baby daddy to also be her husband and to take care of her. So they have Joy sit down with Chris at the end and let him know that the women feel that Chris is not ready for love. Basically, it was just based on Naya. Chris did himself a disservice by only focusing on Naya from the beginning and not really giving himself a chance to interact and get to know the other women. I feel like because he did that, none of the other women had a connection with him. And soon as Naya didn't like him anymore, there was really no reason for him to be on the show anymore. I did like the fact that they had Joy break the news to him because they are friends. And if you notice, even when Joy gave him the news, she said, "Oh, you wouldn't want to hear this from Naya, and I wouldn't let anybody do you like that." So that lets me know that the women also recognized Naya's behavior and how nasty she was being as well. I really think that Chris is a sweet guy. It made me so sad to see him at the end in his confessional when he was saying it was going to take him a little while to get over this. I was like, oh, poor baby. I felt so sad for him. That was just not right. It really just was not right what Naya did. Now, next week's episode shows Adriana and Denise getting into it again about Kel Funny. I don't think Adriana likes Kel Funny. just think she's trying to piss Denise off. That's it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.